Hi, I'm Jenna Dolson.
I'm Carolyna Driver.
I'm Hunter Cunningham.
I'm Trip Cornell.
I'm Peyton Davis.
We chose the film The Blind Side for obvious reasons, of course, for enjoying the film. We have all watched this Oscar-winning movie. However, we also made this decision because we feel as if this film truly encompasses the division of race and ethnicity, and as well as the progress that we have made in continuing to make reach equality. The first discourse we analyzed was gender inequality. Gender inequality is the discrimination based on the sex or gender, causing a sex or gender to be privileged or prioritized over another. An example in the movie is Leanne interrupted football practice. The players and coaches were all in shock. In the scenes, Michael was not understanding what the coaches wanted him to do, so they kept repeating the same thing over and over again. When Leah Ann decided to approach Michael and explain in terms that he would understand, for example, protecting each player like family, he instantly understood. After their talk, he started to become tremendously better. Leaving the field, the coaches and other players were stunned. The coaches approached her and asked what she said to make him play that well. The attitude she received before walking onto the field and after were different. Before, she was getting annoyed, confused, and shocked looks, and after, they're all amazed. Because she is a woman, they showed gender inequality because they thought she did not know what she was doing and did not want her input. Unlike the coaches who had the gender privilege, did not put any effort into teaching him and making sly remarks like, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane.
The next discourse is the masculine and stereotypical discourse. And this was shown in Blindside, and it's interesting because it was with the mother Leanne, a woman, not a man. According to an NDI article, the meaning of masculinity is constructed and defined socially, historically, and politically, rather than being biologically driven. The producers intentionally created her character as dominant and in charge to prove that women have this capability, as well as having the care and empathy that women and mother figures tend to portray. For example, when she went to find Michael's mother, she ran into some men that were being ugly to her. She did not shy away, but instead went up to these men and asserted her dominance, protection, and power for her family, and Michael. These men were showing stereotypical sexual discourse by assuming this white woman would be non-confrontational and that she would simply take them being disrespectful. However, her masculine discourse was shown when she did the opposite and harshly confronted them. Also, when Leanne visited Michael's mom, his mom was very standoffish and judgmental to Leanne at first because of her assumptions about the upper white class. She even highlighted that Leanne was a Christian, which is an example of racial script concept because she was letting the scripts and stereotypes of a group of people define her expectation of Leanne. However, her judgment quickly changed once she talked to her. She realized Leanne was genuine and not simply a guilty white Christian. This movie defeated all odds and created progress among illustrating inclusiveness and stopping stereotypes. From an analysis standpoint, this woman grew up around sports and what all sports bring. Sports create attitude, discipline, dominance, challenges, and drive, which all work together to create a sense of power. From my standpoint, I believe that she would not have been so set on welcoming Michael, as well as the issues she knew she would face, into her home if it was not for the way sport indirectly shaped her and her entire family. We as humans are not stuck to one definition and expectation. We can create our own and we can induce progress. And as shown in The Blind Side, oftentimes our motivation and confidence is created from power through sport.
So I chose sports selection for my discourse. So sports selection is defined as how certain sports end up on a race. This occurs multiple times in The Blind Side. First off, when Michael joins the football team at the private school, he is the only Black kid on a team full of rich, white, privileged kids. On top of that, the entire coaching staff is white. We see it a few more times in the movie during a cheerleading practice scene where Lily is practicing and Leanne is actually essentially directing the practice, but they pan to the whole team and their entire cheerleading team is white. We see it one more time in a volleyball scene with Lily and the entire volleyball team was white. Also talked about stacking. So stacking is when people of one race are common in an area. So stacking occurred multiple times in The Blind Side. First off, when the rich white family adopts the poor black kid, they live in an all white neighborhood, and they send Michael to a wealthy white Christian school where he is the only black kid. And this there's a scene in the during the school where Ms. Boswell, one of Michael's teachers, picks up a piece of paper that was discarded by Michael, and he wrote, "I looked around and saw white walls, white ground, and white people." He realized that he was incompatible with his surrounding environment. Stacking occurs again when Michael runs away from his family and runs back to his mom's rundown apartment complex, where they only have black people living, which we know that's not true, that not only black people are poor, it's everybody. Stacking can also be defined as how coaches / scouts steer certain bodies towards certain positions. And with Michael being the biggest kid on the football team, they put him at ideally left tackle for him to protect the blind side.
Discourse I'll be going over is inclusiveness. Although there was a lot of exclusion on the discourse of inclusiveness was first shown when Leanne and her family pulled over to pick up Michael when he was walking alone at night with nowhere to go. This white upper class family made the decision to include and accept Michael, a black male. From that night forward, the family was attached to Michael and invited him to come live with them. Not only did the family welcome Michael into their home, but Leanne made it her mission to encourage him and to create confidence within him, to really parent him. A friend of Leanne tells her how wonderful it is that she is changing this boy's life, but Leanne says no, he's changing mine. This movie is centered on messages of empathy and inclusion with the importance of family support. The concept of clustering is shown because people expected all whites to distance themselves from blacks. Leanne's friend also asked her whether her charity towards Michael is some sort of white guilt thing. When in reality, Leanne and her family love Michael as their own and don't do it out of guilt, but rather empathy and because it is the right thing to do. They created their own cluster. The sense of political entitlement shown throughout the movie is disregarded by this family, and they created their own power through sport by motivating Michael to find his purpose and meaning in life, which was found through football.
My name is Cornell, and I'm going to be talking about the intersectionality and the self-discourse in The Blind Side. So in the film, you see multiple uses of self-discourse through Michael sharing his thoughts and feelings, his preferences and his ambitions with his coaches, teachers, and of course, the Tui family. One example of Michael sharing his feelings in the film is when he writes on a piece of paper, "I look and I see white people everywhere, white walls, white floors, and of course, a lot of white people." You can see he wants to be accepted in his new lifestyle, but has never been a part of a society like this. He just wants to be understood and trusted so he can learn and grow. But it's hard for him to be accepted when he's had such a different upbringing. You can see this through discourses, how his body language completely changes from the day he's walking in the rain to the warm gym to the day he graduates high school. Michael has gained his confidence by having someone else believe in himself and by getting opportunities to improve and grow throughout the movie. Michael is in a mental and physical battle with his background, his environment. He's confused on the past and his future, which leads to his frustrations. His actions throughout the film lead to his confidence and growth as many setbacks along the way. You can see intersectionality throughout the film by people having roles within the social categorizations such as race, class, and gender. You see how certain groups of people are used as stereotypes and categorized within the film. For instance, they use white people, the Tuies in particular, as this kind family that wants fairness and justice. By doing so, they become these heroes and saviors. The Tuies are highlighted as people who can help others escape from poverty. In this case, having an African-American teenager from the bottom of society who has no birth certificate. They let Michael move into their home without ever batting an eye or questioning the stranger. Doing this shows the white people as a savior. On the other hand, they use Michael and his mother as a drug addict who is from poverty, creating an unfair bias in the film, separating two sides completely. Even if the film is based on a true story, by them documenting it all this way, you still see the separation of classes, an obvious attempt of exaggeration between the two sides, creating them as complete opposites.
Building off of that, I'm going to be talking about racial discrimination. And I think it really connects directly to a quote in the textbook where Rush Limbaugh's famous quote about Donovan McNabb, his temporary decline in play was a result of becoming a pocket passer to avoid the image of being an athletic running quarterback that would befit the black football stereotype, which is a quote on page 141 of the textbook. And this comment about McNabb enforces the stereotype that Black quarterbacks or Black players don't have the mental capacity to be, sort of the same drawback and, like intelligent football players. And that's kind of what Michael had to face, as well as the confidence that he didn't have when he first came into this white Christian school. And the tutoring montage kind of like is the first highlight of that, where he starts out with very poor grades because of his educational background. And then it gets better directly with, correlating with the football and how he gets more accepted by his teammates and the community, as well as his confidence going up. And again, at first with football, players and coaches kind of question if Michael has something wrong with him mentally. And in reality, he just feels immense shyness and separation. And the quote, plays like Tarzan, looks like, or acts like Jane, looks like Tarzan, acts like Jane, is kind of a direct correlation of like his shyness and separation that he feels. And the kids see him as dumb or inferior automatically, even if they're a foot shorter than him or 200 pounds lighter than him. During the game scene where Michael kicks, or another player, white player, kicks Michael in the head after a play, he asked the official with no aggression why he was not called for a penalty. And the official gives Michael an unsportsmanlike conduct as a result, because he's the only Black person in the game. And again, just moments later, when he blocks that same player out of the stadium, they call illegal blocking on him, which is a ridiculous flag. But it's really the thing that it all circles around is Leanne and how she gives Michael confidence, saying, treat the quarterback like it's me, using something that Michael has. He might not have the confidence and he might be very shy at first, but he has the protective like complex that helps him develop as a person and a player throughout the movie.
So power is related to the discourse, as we have discussed, because sport is what directly or indirectly affected these characters, their decisions, and their growth. These examples are created from the power of sport as well as intersectionality. Michael entered a world of white upper class, entitlement, judgment, and expectations. However, he single-handedly reshaped some of these people's assumptions, and he also was changed by the embrace of his white adopted family. The intersectionality of race and cultures is shown in this film, but resulted in an empowering ending rather than an oppressive one. The discourses that are present are a symptom of sports, because sports are one thing, but sport is a whole other ballgame that shapes mindsets across the world today. As we have discussed, this film has many examples of sport discourses. It instructs people about the capability of overcoming stereotypes and standing up for what is right. This discourse shown within this film proves that people are able because of the influence and characteristics that sport induces. We have learned that we should not only welcome all cultures, but embrace them, because in the world of sport, we all work toward a common goal of success.